Let's bring in Swan Bitcoin Managing Director Terrence Yang to talk a little bit more about that and all things crypto. Terrence, great to have you on the program. Thanks so much for joining us. What do you think about the possibility of the SEC kind of folding, I guess, and allowing a spot Bitcoin ETF?
Great to see you again, Matt. I'm not sure I would characterize it as the SEC folding so much as there are things happening now in the world where wash trading is being dealt with by the authorities. So if you look at what China is doing with respect to Hobby and with respect to what the BlackRock, Invesco, Fidelity, and many others are doing using Coinbase as a pricing source for the surveillance sharing agreements, I think that they're helping. They're at a point where crypto is getting cleaned up. So the price manipulation and wash trading that has been allegedly been happening to a rather wide extent in Bitcoin is subsiding. The professionals are coming in. I'm super bullish on Bitcoin long term as soon as these are approved, but I'm not sure I'm as optimistic as Kathy or some of the others. Like you guys had an article on BlackRock and Invesco insiders talking about US spot Bitcoin ETFs being approved within 4 to 6 months. I think it might take longer.
All right, but you think it's going to happen. And Terrence, what I'm wondering is, do you think that the at least partial loss for the SEC versus Ripple marked a little bit of a turning point in terms of Gary Gensler's attitude towards crypto? Because previously it seemed like he wanted to crush anything and everything, even related to cryptocurrencies. And now it seems like the courts aren't going to allow that, and they're going to have to, in some ways, allow things.
So there's some element of that. I'm not sure how much, number one. Number two, Judge Rakoff, who is a better known judge, frankly, for financial kind of services and finance related cases, he basically called out Judge Torres as being incorrect in saying that secondary sales to U.S. retail of XRP is not a security. He didn't say that directly, but kind of implied that that line of thinking was not really correct. So we'll see what happens. And this could end up where the Second Circuit, which is the appellate court for both judges, they decide ultimately what's correct and not correct. I would say that Judge Rakoff's interpretation is down the middle for judges and case law. If you look at the Howey test and all the cases that came after that.
Okay, so whether it is on this specific issue, whether or not the SEC has actually gotten knocked down a peg in terms of what it is able to call a security and what it is not, or it's this question around the spot Bitcoin ETF, Terrence, I just wonder how much is baked into the market at this point. If those things that in theory would be good news are already priced in and we're at risk of downside, or if it's more risk of upside, should we see approval of an ETF, for example?
Sure. So, as soon as it's approved, which could be as long as several months to up to 2 years, I would say, on the outlier, maybe 18 months. 4 to 6 months feels aggressive, but Bitcoin is severely underpriced given its asymmetric upside and given the rush of cash that's going to flood in to BlackRock, Fidelity, Invesco, and all the other spot Bitcoin ETFs. That doesn't mean that Bitcoin can't crash in the shorter term because of all that's happening with respect to Binance and Coinbase and Terra and Hobby. So I think there's a lot of things happening, and it's very hard to predict, as usual, the price of Bitcoin short term. Bitcoin is one of those assets, for better or worse, that's highly volatile in the short term, but long term, its trajectory is unparalleled because it's censor resistant, confiscation resistant, and has a credibly immutable fixed supply of 21 million Bitcoins.
All right, Terrence, we have to leave it on that note, but thank you very much for joining us today. That's Terrence Yang of Swan Bitcoin. We appreciate your time.